Welcome, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today as we explore and showcase augmented reality. So, what is the AR Showcase? At its core, the AR Showcase is a culmination and exploration that our team has done over the past several weeks. And remember, this is not where we end. This is just a beginning to a conversation with hopefully you of how we can use these AR apps to enhance teaching and learning in the classroom. And this is the second live stream that we have done in this format. The first was Virtual Spaces, which we streamed in early February. If you missed that, we have the recording on our YouTube page, so definitely remember to check that out if you'd like. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce the team. My name is Zach, and I will be the host for today's shenanigans. Nate is behind the switcher, making all the magic happen. To my right, we have Dan and Tyler, who will be showcasing the apps that we will be talking about today. And I can't forget Marcus, who is behind the scenes, pulling all the strings, making the magic happen. He's producing and directing the show for you today. So we are all a part of the Creative Learnings Initiatives team that sits within teaching and learning with technology at Penn State. And these live streams are just a small glimpse into the creative learning initiatives that we hold. You may be more familiar with the Media and/or Maker Commons. So those are two larger initiatives within the CLI team. And in fact, Dan and Nate are both on those teams today. And we'd love to talk more about what we do as a team. So if you have any questions or have any ideas, please reach out to us. We will drop our contact information in the chat and we will have it at the end of the presentation. So now let's talk AR. So here's a slide first showing you the team. I forgot to move my slide, of course. So again, that's Marcus, myself, Tyler, and Dan, and Nate. But moving on to logistics here. So what are we doing? How are things going to work today and why? So those are all great questions. Thank you for asking. So we have 6 AR apps that we will be showcasing today. And within those apps, we have distributed 3 awards: the View Award, the Share Award, and the Create Award. So within those 3 awards, we have given a gold, silver, and bronze medal based on our explorations and internal discussions. And we will showcase those on each app that we go. Below the awards, you can also see a list of platform icons. Some of these apps you'll see today are only on iOS, some are exclusive to Android, and some are on both. So we will be talking about those today as well too. So without further ado, the first app we're going to be looking at today is Sketchfab. I'm going to be kicking this over to Dan here. He's going to be walking you through what Sketchfab is, how we can use it. And as you can see here, we have given this the gold award for view. So we think it is the best for viewing AR apps. Dan, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm going to show today is, so we're going to kind of, to build on these apps a little bit for the first 3 that we have here, kind of show how you can use view one model within 3 different apps. And I should say up front too, Sketchfab is one of the ones that we've kind of been able to implement a little bit also into classes and things like that. So just to kind of start for anybody that's not familiar with what Sketchfab is, essentially Sketchfab is a repository of 3D models that people can upload, or you can upload your own models to there. And they tend to be really high quality models for AR and VR content. So they have a lot of really high quality textures and things like that, and stuff that you can search through. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the actual just application on my phone. So I should mention too, this is also, you can view the Sketchfab website via PC. But what we're going to talk about today, specifically the Sketchfab app, because it introduces some augmented reality possibilities. So I will go ahead, and if you can bring up my iPad, whoops. There we go, it should be. And I'm just going to go ahead and start. So the Sketchfab app is, I believe, for both Android and iOS that you can download for free within this too. They do have some paid models and things like that, but for browsing, it should be pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Sketchfab. I believe it's going to reorient me here, just to give you an idea first of what kind of the home screen looks like here. So, so as mentioned, Sketchfab is kind of a repository of 3D models. So when you first open it up, you're going to have a ton of different stuff that you can choose from here. Now, one thing, this is all kind of like in a random assortment of stuff, but they do kind of break this down in categories, and you can search through this. And with each one of these models, you can go ahead and click on these and then bring up the model within the actual viewer here. So here we have a nice little animated model of a worm and an apple here. So they have all kind of cool stuff. But one thing I thought I would show within this is how you could use this site to maybe build a collection of models that you could view in augmented reality. So something that I thought, just to kind of base this off of, to give you an idea of what I mean here, one feature that Sketchfab has is this ability to search models and then create your own collection. So even if you don't have models that you want to upload, you can make your own collections and then say, like, give those to students or something to look at. So one thing that we did at the beginning of the pandemic here, let me reorient, was build out something called on our website for the IMEX lab, these IMEX excursions. And basically what we did with this, we took Sketchfab and we searched through it to find different and create different collections based off these different countries of origin. So what I'm going to show today, so we have one for Egypt. And just to kind of give you an idea, so we found a bunch of models that were related to Egypt, and we basically built those into a collection in Sketchfab. So I'm going to go ahead and show that within here. And let's go ahead and I'm going to search for the Maker Commons account here. Go ahead and search. All right, and then so within this user window, we have these collections. So we've been kind of going through for a couple of these different IMEX excursions and just finding models that are based off these different countries. So what I thought we'd do today, we'll start with the Egypt one, and we'll kind of show how you can take these models from Sketchfab and use them. So I'm going to go ahead and open this collection. We just have 5 models in this collection. And I'm going to go ahead and open this first model, which is a painted chest in King Tut's tomb. Now, sometimes with Sketchfab, depending on the model, you may get these little errors about it being a large scene. I have found that for the most part, a lot of them seem to load fine, although there are some that tend to be massive, and then sometimes it doesn't work quite well. But for the most part, I've just always hit OK on this, and then things will go ahead and load up. All right, so here we have this really nice, probably my guess would be a 3D scan. I believe this is from a museum of painted chest in King Tut's tomb. So this is kind of what it looks like in just the regular Sketchfab app, but where this gets cool is when you can bring these models very easily into augmented reality via the Sketchfab app. So what I have in the top right-hand corner, it might be a bit hard to see on the stream because it's kind of small, but the very right-hand corner, we see 2 icons. The one on the right, so looks like a VR option. Sketchfab actually has a way to put your phone into like a Google Cardboard option and view it that way. But I think the cooler one is the augmented reality, and that's the icon right next to it. It looks like a little cube that's kind of hashed out here, dotted cube. So I'm going to go ahead and press that icon. All right, that's going to reorient me a little bit. And that is going to bring up the augmented reality feature of Sketchfab. So as you can see, when I kind of move around, it's scanning for the floor. And all I have to do here is actually tap to place the model into the room. All right, and there we go, and that's going to bring it in. Whoops, we got some construction going upstairs. So now I can actually come in here and walk around this model and be able to get a lot more detailed than I was just kind of in the viewer there. So I don't know if you could, if my camera's up, you can see I'm just kind of walking around. All right, and I can actually, if I want, rotate this or scale it just by using some kind of simple gestures. All right, and all that's done just kind of with the touch of that little button there. Now, again, to mention, sometimes the bigger the model, this may not work as smoothly sometimes, but I found a lot of them do tend to work. We've even done some stuff where we've taken like 3D models of maps and like scaled them out to the whole room, and then you can kind of walk around it and things like that. So Sketchfab is probably the reason we like this a lot is because of the simplicity of it and the ease of access for everybody to get into it. It doesn't take much. You can have a free account if you want to upload your own models or create your own collections and things like that. So it's a really useful tool for, again, just kind of an intro to viewing models in 3D space. That is pretty simple to do. Now, what we're going to show next is how, so taking something that we found on Sketchfab, actually go through these other, couple other programs, building off the same model to show like what you can do with this afterwards. Because the other nice thing about Sketchfab is some of the models are downloadable. That's not the case for every single one. But when you do have models that are downloadable, really kind of expands your possibilities here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back to Zach for just a minute to talk about our next, well, I got to prep my next thing here. And then we'll talk about Merge Cube.
Hey, Dan, before we move on, we have a couple questions here. Are there any tools or services at Penn State for someone to easily create 3D models?
Sure, we have. There's options for 3D scanning. So if anybody's interested, we do have a 3D scanner, especially for Sketchfab. They tend to publish really, really well on there. We've actually done a couple scans that I've uploaded there just as kind of a test for that. So yeah, if anybody has objects that they'd want, we could. That's probably the simplest way to take something that's already out there. But we can also help with introducing you to 3D modeling software if that's something that you're interested in. Kind of depending on the level, we could get you started and then let you go on your own creativity, after that. But yeah, that's a good question there.
Cool. All right, so that is Sketchfab. Thank you very much, Dan, for showcasing that. And Dan is also going to be walking us through our second app today, which is the Merge Cube. So as you can see on my slide here, we have the Merge Cube suite. We have given it the bronze medal for view. So it is a great AR app to view augmented reality. And you can see here that it is on iOS and both Android. So we're going to kick this over to Dan here, and he's going to walk us through what the Merge Cube is, how we can use it in the classroom, and possibly talk about some use cases that we've done here at Penn State. So Dan, take it away again.
All right, yeah. So moving on, the second thing we wanted to talk about was the Merge Cube, and this is the Merge Cube. So basically, what this is, it's essentially a toy, almost a kind of foam, almost stress ball type of material there, with all these kind of crazy patterns on it. And basically, the company that has produced this is in the process. They're reshifting a little bit, but they put out a bunch of apps that work with this. So the first one being the Merge Explorer. That is a bunch of kind of pre-created content that you can access within this. But what we're going to kind of show here is something called the Object Viewer, which really lets you do a little bit more with your own models and things like that, where the kind of Explorer doesn't have those options. Now, here, the real advantage of something like this is the fact that it is physical, and that it's going to be a lot more easy to manipulate. And especially if you're in a smaller space. So say you have you're in a regular classroom when we're hopefully post-COVID times, maybe the students are at your desk and you don't have maybe the space to do a full room scale type of AR experience. These Merge Cubes can come in really handy for that. And we actually had a class use these in that way a couple semesters ago before the world shut down. But so what I thought I'd show is how we could take the same model that we had on Sketchfab and actually upload it to this cube so that we can manipulate it that way. Now, so if we go to the iPad here, one thing I thought I would show first, just to give you a little background on what's kind of going on behind the scenes with Merge. So Merge has a platform called Merge EDU that you can sign up for free. And within this platform, this is where you can actually go and upload your own models. Now I've created an account here already. So on the left-hand side, I have an option for kind of my stuff here. So just to give you an idea of basically how this worked, essentially I hit this little upload button. All right, and that brought me to this page where I was able to take any model that I had and drag and drop it into this system here. Now there are a few restrictions on file types with this. I think most of the time, a lot of times you get the OBJ files and stuff like that. But if you do have something that's a little weird and you're curious to use this, that's something we can help out with to make sure that you have the right file type. But after I uploaded it, if I go to my stuff here, so essentially the way this works is my objects will be loaded up to this. And when I click on the object that I want, it's going to give me some details about this. What I'm going to look for here is I need a way to actually load it up onto the Merge Cube through this app. And basically all that runs through is a code that this software creates. So if I hit share options here, so you'll see that I get at the bottom, right below the QR code there, we have a object code in here. So that object code is going to make it really, really simple to punch into the Object Viewer app and then load up this model. So I'm going to back out here. And let me just bring the code up on my phone so I have it there. And I'm going to load up this Object Viewer application. So this could be, I believe this is also cross-platform. So this is Android and iOS. Although I do believe the Android one has a few less features. But let's go ahead and open this up. All right, that's going to load up this Object Viewer app. Now, a cool thing about this too, it does have, when you go to the homepage here, it does have a bunch of stuff kind of pre-collected from this. So if you are just curious to if you see a category in here, something that you could like, you can kind of browse through this and load them up on this way. But what we're really concerned with is being able to punch our own code in. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this little option on the side here. And I have an option, so in the browse section here for code search. All right, so if I click on that, I'm going to put my code in here. Just give me 1 second. All right, that should be good. I hit return. All right, and there's my box. So right now, this is still just within the app. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this play button on here. And it's going to load that up. And now I have an option to scan the cube. So if you see the cube there we go. So it'll load the object right on the cube, and now I can actually physically pick it up and inspect it this way. And there's something to the physicality of it. It's kind of hard to explain, but being able to touch it and manipulate it this way makes it a little more intuitive, I think, when you're kind of looking at it. I've had some issues with some programs doing weird rotations and stuff like that. But this really gives you kind of a hands-on way to do that. And again, it kind of saves you space if you are in a kind of a smaller classroom where you don't have that. And there's also a couple things you can do with this once you're in here. So one of the features they have here is a little, in the bottom right-hand corner, you might notice some of this. Actually, I think my video is covering it up. But they have two icons down here, one of which looks like a little stamp. So what the stamp can do, let's say I just wanted to load it onto this table here. I can hit that stamp button. And it won't seem like anything happens at first, but if I move the cube away, now I have that on there, and I don't need the cube, and I can manipulate from here. But the other option it does have, so if I did want more of a Sketchfab experience where it's scaled to the whole room, right next to that stamp icon, there's a little slider button here. And when I click that, that's going to give me the option to scan a surface. All right, and there we go. And then I can tap in place. So just like Sketchfab then, I can move this around. Kind of, there we go. Scale it. Wasn't quite getting my gestures right there. All right, and walk around just the way I did in Sketchfab. So the advantage of the Merge Cube is it gives you a little more flexibility. The downside is you don't have, one, you have to be able to get the models. And we have had some issues with, depending on the type of model, weird upload things every once in a while. But that advantage of really the saving space and kind of the physicality of it is really interesting.
Cool. Thanks, Dan, for sharing. So we have a couple of questions here, and they're kind of all related. So I'm just going to ask them sort of as one big question. But we have a question from the chat saying, how can I get my own merge cube? And there's another question there. Are there options to have custom shapes instead of a cube? So I guess, can you talk about where they can access a physical cube, or is there an option to maybe print out a cube?
Yeah, so actually, to answer the first question, so the cubes themselves, if you are curious, they sell them in a couple different places. I believe we got ours off Amazon, and I think they're around like $25 if I'm remembering correctly for that. So they are inexpensive, but they also have plans out. So, and they actually released this at the beginning of the pandemic, that you can print your own merge cube. So if you really needed to, that makes it an advantage for students too. Especially if when if we're still remote and things like that, they don't necessarily need to purchase one of these. In fact, Tyler created a giant one made out of cardboard where he basically, so it's the size of a big cardboard box, just by kind of enlarging the shapes that are on the cube here, and making that really big. So it is a very low cost option for that. But again, if you want the kind of the foam cube, it's pretty inexpensive for that. And the second question, so could you do like custom shapes other than a cube? That I don't believe is possible at this time. So everything is kind of just, if you think of it, it's essentially like an image target. So it's really kind of shaped to this. Now they do, I believe they do have options. They were putting out there like the Unity environment that this is built in. So if you had Unity experience, you could customize your own app and stuff like that in here. But I don't think you can get outside. So I could make this a sphere or something like that.
Awesome, thanks. And I just want to reiterate, Dan mentioned a few times that we can help with any of these apps. So if you do have any questions or want to explore further, definitely reach out to us. You can contact us on either imex.psu.edu, or you can email us directly at creativelearning@psu.edu. So the next app we're going to be talking about today is Adobe Aero. So we have given it 3 awards. We have the Gold Award for Create and Share, and the Silver Award for View. So as you can see, we thought Adobe Aero was pretty useful. It tends to be one of the inner circle favorites here. And you can see that it is right now only available on iOS. There is a beta app for the desktop, so you can get more. You can get more in depth with the creation of AR elements through that app. But I'm going to kick this over to Dan. He's going to walk us through Adobe Aero and what it can do.
Okay. All right. So actually, what I thought I'd do first is if we can jump back to my Sketchfab screen for just a second. So to give you kind of a little idea of what Aero can do, I thought I would show what the Sketchfab actually had in it and show how we can kind of build off that a little bit. So one thing I didn't mention when we were in here, Sketchfab has, when you're in just kind of the standard mode, it has this ability to put annotations in here. So I don't know, it's a little hard to see because they're scaled down so small, but I have like a little one here. And if I click that, it's going to give me a little annotation of what this is. But the downside of this is that you lose that when you get into the actual AR view. So where Aero is really cool is we can build in a bunch of this kind of stuff that we don't really have access to in the other apps where we can't really build much. So what I thought I'd show is how to bring in, if I wanted to recreate these annotations in something like Aero, and maybe even add some new features in there, how I could do that as a building platform. So let's go ahead and switch. And open up Adobe Aero. So yeah, as Zach mentioned, Adobe Aero is something that we are really looking forward to the development of as this kind of keeps going, because it really, really has potential for the creation of more complex AR scenes than just kind of loading up an object and looking at it. So that's where we're kind of really excited with this. So what I thought I'd do, I'd go through and start to build this chest out a little bit with these annotations and give you an idea for the feel of that and how that goes. And then at one point, we'll cut to a kind of finished version of that just for the sake of time. So you can see how kind of complex you can get within here. So Aero is, again, so it's only for iOS, but it has a really intuitive feel to it once you get in there. So we're going to start. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a new project. And the first thing it's going to have me do is just scan around the room. And you can see it's picking up the surfaces here. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead. So it says tap to anchor. That's I'm going to go ahead and tap. And then you'll see I have like a little grid that is showing me kind of where my build area is here. Now, one thing to mention here, there is a bit of back work on the other side of this that we're not going to see. To be able to pull these models in and things, I had to work with the Adobe Creative Cloud to kind of bring these in. So there was a little bit of work on the back end, basically downloading those models from Sketchfab and uploading them to my Creative Cloud folder. So that's one thing you're not going to see here. But otherwise, I'll just go through and kind of show how you can add content in here. So first, I'm going to go ahead, and there's a little plus button in the bottom left-hand corner. And I'm going to go ahead and press that. And so I have the option to add some assets here. So there is a collection of starter assets, which if you're curious about this, there's a lot of fun ones in there. You can trigger animations and stuff like that. So definitely check those out. But I want to show how I can bring something in that I've done or uploaded to my Creative Cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Creative Cloud. All right, and I have a couple, so all my different things that I've had in here. And I'm going to hit, so I created a folder specifically for this streaming demo. All right, so there's some stuff in here, so that I'll get to it a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and find my tut box option, hit open. All right, and that's going to load the chest up here. So then all I have to do, I can just tap and go ahead and place that. So it came in very, very small. So I'm just going to go ahead and click it. And you'll see at the bottom here, I have a bunch of options for how I can manipulate this. But I can also just do that with my fingers here. So I'm just going to scale this up. Maybe a little bigger just for the sake of building here. There we go. All right, and I can lock that in. So now I have it just the way it was in Sketchfab, where I can kind of walk around and see everything in augmented reality. But where Aero is really cool is that we can keep building with this. So I'm going to go ahead and add some features in here. So I'm going to hit plus, Creative Cloud. And so let's say I wanted to have, where's my folder here. So I'm going to create a little info icon so that basically I can make that tappable so that something comes up. So I'm going to bring an info button in. Go ahead and hit open. All right. And I can sort of resize this. If I use 3 fingers, I can actually move this up in the space. And I have an annotation for exactly what this this side of the chest is of. So I'm just gonna keep manipulating this a little bit, line it up. So we'll do that for now. All right, and now I'm gonna go ahead and bring in my annotation. So this was something I did on Photoshop, where I just kind of put together a quick title slide. Whoops, I keep forgetting to go in the folder. There we go. All right, so the newbies. So we'll hit open. So this is just a standard image, so it doesn't have to be a 3D model. So I can go ahead and if I tap to place this, go ahead and move this up. And if I kind of go over here, I can get pretty roughly, so that looks pretty good there. Maybe move it up just a little bit. Now, one thing to mention, so you can get a little more accurate with these controls down here. So if I wanted to move with a little more accuracy, I can just hit these buttons down here. All right. For the sake of time here, I'm just going to go ahead and what we want, though, to happen, I don't want this annotation to necessarily be there the whole time. So where Aero gets really cool is you can build in some interactions with this. So I can actually make touchable interactions. So let's say when I hit this info button, I can actually go down here at the bottom and put a behavior in this. So I'm going to go ahead and add a trigger. And I'll make this a tap trigger. And then I can have an action happen. So the action I'm going to want to have happen is I want to show that annotation. So I'm just going to hit show. Here I can change the subject. So I'll go annotation. All right, and I can confirm that here. Now, to make this really work, though, I need to actually make sure that the annotation itself is hiding to start. So I'm going to click that, add a behavior to that. And for this trigger, I'm going to go start and actually have it hide here. All right, and now when I preview this, all right, so now I'm actually in the preview mode. I can actually go here. And when I click this info button, the annotation will come up. But where this can get really crazy is the kind of more stuff you add into it, things can get really interesting. So I'm actually going to load up a project that I managed to put together in the desktop version of Aero. And the difference there being it's a little easier. Now that desktop version is still in beta, but it makes it a little easier to build really complex scenes within there. So let's go ahead. And I'm going to load up this scene. Pan around here. All right, so this is something I did previously, and it's really easy to just kind of pull it up. Oop. All right, let's go ahead and hit preview here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and walk around this, and you guys hopefully should have sound. What I added to all these was a sound trigger and a little close button to this. So if I come up to this first one, let's go back to the one we started, and we're going to hit info. And we have a little sound trigger. Let's go. Okay. All right, and then I can actually close, just hit the X button to close that out.
Hey, Dan, if someone wants to learn what you're doing right now, where can they start? Are there resources available at Penn State for them?
Yes, so we certainly, if you contact the Media Commons, we are working on our own support for that. So, but we've been in here enough that we can support it and start to get that together. They also have, there's a lot of Adobe resources out there. The actual first, when you open it up for the first time, it'll take you through a little demo of it and things like that. So yeah, so as long as they contact Media Commons, we can get you set. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Now the last thing I'd like to show with this, I'll just show one more of these two. So for the sake of demo here. So this is a.
And while you're showing that, we have another question. You mentioned Creative Cloud earlier. Is that synced to our PSU Access accounts? Could theoretically students share projects back and forth for collaborative projects?
Yes, so that is the nice thing about the Creative Cloud folder is you can share assets with each other and everything like that. So you could have two people not necessarily working at the same time within the app, but you could share assets within that. Oops. Okay, better. Now, the last thing I wanted to show here, though, is the nice part of Aero 2. It's pretty easy to share this, or for time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and actually hit the share button here and share a link. And if I just hit create link here, I can actually bring up a QR code, and Tyler over here can just scan it.
Ooh, it says it's not ready.
Try that again.
Again. Sometimes it takes a little bit to actually load. Come on, baby.
There we go. So I may have tried to share it a little too fast, but now he can bring it up. Go ahead and scan, and there we go.
Cool. And just for the audience here, we are now sharing Tyler's iPad. This is no longer Dan's iPad. So this is just showing you the power of Adobe Aero and how easily you can share AR projects.
All right, and that's everything we have on Aero. So yeah, we're really excited. Hopefully, I think the desktop version is really going to give us a lot of possibilities to create a lot of more complex scenes within this. So
cool. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
So as Dan just mentioned, there is a desktop version there that is in beta, and it is not on Android yet, but they are working on an Android app. It is not out yet, so we're hoping that Adobe releases that so Adobe Aero is available to everybody. So now we're going to move on to our next app in the AR showcase, and that is going to be JigSpace. So JigSpace is pretty cool. JigSpace is one of my favorites. We have given it 2 medals or 2 awards. It is a silver medal for Create and a bronze medal for Share. And it is available both on iOS and Android. And for this, we're going to kick this one over to Tyler, and he's going to walk us through JigSpace. He's going to show us how to create a little jig. And that is not a dance for St. Patrick's Day, but it is a jig for AR, and he will talk about what that is. So Tyler, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. All right. So today we're going to talk about JigSpace a little bit, like Zach said. So I'm just going to go ahead and load up the JigSpace app on my iPad here. I'm just going to go ahead and touch that. Now, I will say to begin with, JigSpace does require a login. There is a premium feature just to kind of get all that information out in the front. Basically, the premium feature just offers a little bit more access in terms of uploading models as well as how many projects you can have. But apart from that, this is a really powerful tool, and it kind of is really interesting in terms of creating augmented reality presentation. So to kind of give you an example of that, I'm going to go ahead and load up one of these featured projects. So the one that I really like here is the coral reef. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that one, and I'm going to view this in AR. And I'm just going to not drop my iPad. I'm just going to go ahead and scan the floor, and I'm going to place this jig. And once it is placed, now I have this full scene here in front of me. And you'll notice down at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see some information. So coral reefs are one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. But say I want more information to come up as a student or a faculty member or a staff member is looking through this. So I have these little arrows on the right side. I can just touch that arrow, and what it's going to do is bring up secondary information, and I can build out this project as much as I'd like to. So this is where that you can create educational slideshows that are more immersive and a little more interactive than a typical PowerPoint, which is a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to walk you guys through creating a jig. So I'm just going to go back here. This is the main thing, our main homepage. And I'm going to go ahead and create, and it's going to ask me to sign in. So I'm just going to sign in really quickly. Could have sworn I did this already. And should be good. Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new jig. It's up here in the top left corner. So I create a new jig. And what you're going to notice is we have this kind of blank canvas. And so I can use my gestures just like Dan was using in Sketchfab and the other apps. I can just use one finger and I can rotate around, and I can use two fingers to scale up and down. Now what's really nice with Jig is basically you have a whole library of assets to work with. So if I wanted to, say, talk about a frog, and I wanted to also bring in the frog skeleton or maybe something about the frog organs, I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to choose this frog right here. And you'll notice we have a ton of different assets on the left that I could choose from. So I'm going to hit frog. I'm just going to select this frog. What it's going to do is automatically load that frog in for me. And say I want to move this frog, I can use these little arrows here to move the frog back and forth. You'll notice this little handlebar on the left. I can rotate, scale, as well as change some of the colors. I can also add annotations if I wanted to say I don't want this to be a frog, but maybe I want this to be frog skin. So this is the outside, and then I can keep on moving with this. I'm going to hit the plus sign here. And you'll notice it kept everything in that same frame. So the first frame, and I'm going to move this frog just forward a hair. And I'm going to add in our skeleton. And so now we'll have the skeleton, and I can actually bounce back and forth in between these two. You'll notice we get this kind of animation that's happening. So it's really easy to start creating some really diverse projects. So say I want to maybe take this a step further, and I want to move this forward, as well as this one. Hello. Oh, doesn't like me. But it will let me typically move things around. For some reason, it gave me a little bit of an error there. There we go. Now it wants to work. It doesn't like to select that skeleton. Anyway, you can get the idea here. We're also going to add one more, and I'm going to just add in the organs as well so we can see the organs. So we're going to add in that project. And lots of tutorial steps that are happening here. And I'm just going to use that arrows key so we can see different things that are happening. Excellent. So say I have all of this finished up and I'm ready to present this to someone. I can just hit this augmented reality button up here on the left, right underneath that plus button. It's going to do that exact same thing that we did with the coral reef. So I'm just going to hit the left sign to tap to add the jig. And then you'll see we have our organs, and then skeleton, and then our frog. And I can shift between our slides. So there is one, there is two, and then the third one, our organs appear on the left side there. Now, if I wanted to share this with someone else, all I have to do in the top right corner, there's a little plus button. It's going to save my jig. And then, can do it. There we go. You can actually save this if you'd like to. You can also present it if you wanted to just present it to a group of people. But typically, you can present through Zoom or something else that you may want to do. And that is pretty much the basics of Jig. We're going to keep on rolling to our next one. I'm going to send it back to Zach if there's any questions.
No specific questions on Jig, but we do have an interesting question that I'm going to kick to you before I set up another one. Do you have any plans to explore advanced AR software such as Vuforia or Unity?
Yes, so we actually have explored Unity and Vuforia. We've actually taught, Dan has taught a class or two on teaching basic augmented reality introductions through Unity and Vuforia. It's something that we're exploring a little bit further and developing our own applications to actually share our own content. So yes, it is in the works, and if anybody has any interest in that, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to work with you in that too.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the reason for the AR showcase is basically to showcase, I don't want to say simple, but intuitive AR apps that can easily be integrated right now into the classroom. And I also do want to apologize for the speed of some of these showcases. We have only allocated about 7 to 8 minutes per app just so we can get through all 6 of them. So if you do have more questions and want to explore this further, again, please reach out to us. Our email address is creativelearning@psu.edu. We will drop that at the end of this presentation as well. But the next app we have is the Assemblr suite. So very similar to JigSpace. If you notice the metals here, they kind of just swapped. So we silver metal for share and a bronze metal for create. And the Assemblr suite is also available on iOS and Android, and there is a desktop app that allows you to get more advanced in creating. So I'm going to kick this over to Tyler, and he's going to walk us through Assemblr.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and talk about Assemblr. So the first app that I'm going to walk through is just the Assemblr app. So basically, just the Assemblr app is kind of your home base for all kinds of different content you can experience. There's all kinds of different creations that people have made inside of the Assemblr workshop, which is a PC-based kind of builder for this application. But this works very similar to JigSpace. I'm going to show you kind of an example that we have here. So I'm just going to load up this praying mantis, and I'm just going to select view in AR. So I'm just going to select the view in AR, and we're going to load this up. And I'm just going to scan the table here, and I'm going to tap to place. I'm just going to scale this up some so that we can actually see it. And you'll notice it actually might be having some issues tracking. Let me try that one more time.
So while Tyler's getting that set up, I just want to apologize if you hear fluctuations in our voice. There is jackhammering going on right next door, which I don't think you can hear it on the live stream, but it is very loud here in the Dreamery. So that's why we're speaking louder in some instances.
There we go. Yes, we are doing our best. All right. And as you can see, this works very similarly to JigSpace, where we can select different slides. But I can come in here a little bit closer. What's happening, and just to note, the issue that I was having with tracking is because the texture on this table is really repetitive. So there's no solid marks for it to be able to track. So you want to be mindful of that if you're using augmented reality or any one of these apps. But I can go ahead and I can use these arrows, and you can kind of see the different content that is in here. And you can take a look at that. There's also just a 3D viewer. So if I wanted to look around this with just my iPad, I can go ahead and do that. Also, one other feature that I really like with Assemblr is it has a game view. And so I can literally, let me try and find my model here. I can look at this as if I was walking around it in a first-person mode, which is a lot of fun. And I can kind of inspect this at my own leisure, just using the touchscreen to look around. And then there's also a jump button. So the potential to create some really interesting interactions is definitely there in terms of just the Assemblr app. And again, like I said, this is kind of your home base in terms of just looking at different content. Now, the secondary part of Assemblr in terms of the Assemblr suite is an application called Assemblr EDU. And I'm just going to jump out of here, and I'm going to jump over to Assemblr EDU. Now, Assemblr EDU does require a sign-in just like JigSpace. And what you have whenever you're all signed in is you have the ability to create classes. Now with this, all I have to do is really easy. So up here in the top right corner, I can hit this little plus sign. I can say I want this to be our, I'm going to say AR demo. Then I can choose a photo if I'd like, and I can create. Oh, please fill in fields. We'll add a description. Look at that perfect description. It's wonderful. Excellent. So I go ahead and I can add in that AR demo. I can click inside of here, and then I can add members. I can add content. If I go over here to the members, I can invite other teachers or invite students. And all I have to do is share an invitation code. And then they can take that code once they have the Assemblr app downloaded. And then they would just jump back to their home, join class, and they would just type in that code right here, and they'd be all set. And they would jump inside of that class. And just like I said before, you can add all kinds of content in terms of this class. And we have post links, post files, post videos, images, messages, etc. So you can definitely build out kind of a curriculum, or definitely just assets or augmented reality experiences that you want your students or peers to view with you as well. So that is kind of the gist in terms of Assemblr. And again, we're kind of going through here just a little bit quickly.
So Tyler, I do have a question for you. You're in the Assemblr EDU app right now.
Yeah.
How many students can we add to a class in the EDU app?
So there are no limits. You can add as many students as you'd like to, peers, faculty, staff, etc. So you can all kind of collaborate in this space. So it's definitely open for you to utilize at your will.
Cool. So that is very cool. There are 3 paid tiers to the Assemblr EDU app, though, I will mention. The first one, there is no limit, but as you pay for the upper tiers, you can add premium seats, which just allow you to add more features to the Assemblr EDU app. One more question for you, Tyler. You were in there messing with a praying mantis. How many learning materials are there available right now that are pre-made AR learning materials?
So there are over 100 different learning materials. There are tons of different assets, tons of different experiences that you can push out to your students, push out to faculty. It's kind of an ever-growing application, so there's more content that's being created by users as well as the actual developers themselves. So it's a really awesome resource, and you should check it out.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Yeah.
So that is the Assemblr suite. Our next and final app that we will be talking about today is Sketchup Viewer. So Sketchup Viewer, we unfortunately didn't give this one any awards. It got, and Tyler will talk more about why we did that. It's more of a niche app. It is very, very good still, and it is available on iOS, Android, and there is well. So going to kick this back over to Tyler so we can finish off our last AR app. Tyler?
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. All right, so the reason that we gave this an honorable mention is because this app is a very niche product. So Sketchup Viewer is basically oriented towards architectural design students, as well as just viewing any type of architecture inside of a virtual space or augmented reality. Or if your student or faculty member who has an interest in SketchUp in general, so if you're using that to create any other assets for projects, this gives you the opportunity to share that product out with faculty and students to view it in an immersive experience, like I said previously. So I'm just going to go ahead and load up this SketchUp Viewer. I always want to say Sketchfab. They're too close. Now, this one does also require a sign-in. These last 3 do require sign-ins and accounts, just to make you guys aware. This one specifically, whenever you sign up, it does offer a 30-day trial, but I like to note and tell people that it is a paid product in terms of getting full access to everything for a long amount of time or forever. And it is $9.99 a year, so it's $10 a year. So you can weigh that if you would like to in terms of the features that are available for it. But whenever you sign in, the different things available to you, I'm just going to point out this one thing in the top right corner: 3D Warehouse, Trimble Connect, and Files on Device. The Trimble Connect gives you the ability to share your content through a cloud service. So if you're working on your desktop, you save it up to Trimble Connect and then access it on your iPad to share with your peers. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to walk through kind of our 3D Warehouse here. And this is a kind of collection of all kinds of different products that were created in SketchUp. So I'm just going to go ahead here. I'm going to search Home. And you'll notice once I searched Home, I have all these different things that I can view in here. So I'm just going to select this one, which is H5. and I'm going to hit this little share button. And what it's going to do is it's automatically going to bring this up in a 3D viewer, and I can look at this however I want to. I can spin this around and look at it. But say I want to view this in AR. So there's a little AR button in the bottom left corner. And I'm just going to scan this a little bit here. And we're going to just tap to place. I can scale this just like I would scale anything else using those gestures. And then I have the ability, I can move around here. I can get down close and look at specific things. One other feature that I really love with this is the ability to do what's called an immersive view. So if I hit this other button in the bottom left corner, which is a little box with a little dot in it, to touch that, and then all I have to do is touch the model. Woo, and it will orient you in a specific way. Sometimes it takes a little bit. And I can actually walk around this space.
Tyler, we lost you for a second there.
Oh, no.
Maybe jiggle the adapter. There it is. We're back.
Okay. Sometimes these dongles, man. So you have the ability to move around this space and actually run it as kind of a first person, which is really cool. And so I could come in here and I could go, if the house was actually built on the interior, I could move around that space and I could look at different walls, different features, furniture, etc. And that is the immersive view. So I can jump out of that. It's going to orient back where we were. Sorry, it kind of bounces around from side to side. But there are other features here in terms of layers. We have dimensions, scenes, as well as measuring. So if I wanted to measure this out, I definitely could measure out that specific angle. Sometimes it gets a little finicky just because it's trying to track at the same time, and I don't touch the right spot. So that is SketchUp and kind of the niche product in terms of the augmented reality side of architectural design. I'm going to send it back to Zach.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We are just about finished here. Before we close here, we want to talk about our quadrant chart. So if you were with us last month, we had a similar chart like this that sort of charted the virtual spaces. We're going to try and do this for every live stream that we do. As you can see here, we have placed Merge Cube and Sketchfab pretty close together. They have a short time to learn and a short time to implement if you're interested in using those in your class. And as you can see, as we move over to the right and higher, it takes more time to learn these applications and it takes more time to implement them in your classroom. And we also want to mention that with AR, you want to make sure that you are running a newer device. We've had issues with this when we were exploring these applications. Older devices may struggle. So this is a limitation of AR. So when we talk about that, we want to say that you want to be running newer iPads, newer tablets if you're exploring these applications. And it is worth mentioning that we are running the newest version of iPads to run these apps. So when we're streaming this, we're running basically a pretty big processor in there. And if you did like our live stream today, please give us a like button and don't forget to mash that subscribe button. We're going to be doing more of these in the future. So if you subscribe to our channel, you will be able to keep up to date when we do schedule new live streams. So again, I want to thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions or you're ready to explore further, definitely reach out to us. Our contact is creativelearning@psu.edu. Thank you very much.
Switch apps without pausing your music. Start a free trial of YouTube Premium.